but I actually grew up in Richmond Hill, Queens. I was the second oldest of 4 children, and I was conditioned to think in a certain way. All criminals are guilty. Those who can't find work don't really want to work. And those who are homeless were either alcoholics or drug addicts. And from a very early age, I had a very neat, narrow plan of what my life would be. I was pretty sure by the age of 12 that I was going to attend St. John's University and get a degree in journalism. Before my senior year at St. John's University, I realized that the perfect path that I had planned was a wreck. My mother, at the age of 47, died from breast cancer. She was my protector. After I graduated in 1983 from St. John's, I found it extremely difficult to get a job, whether it was a part-time or a full-time job. Besides the challenging situation of trying to find a job, life on the home front was horrible. The relationship I had with my alcoholic father had grown even more troubling since my mother passed away. With her gone, I spent most of my time in my 3rd floor attic room, listening to Bruce Springsteen songs or just writing. My father forced me out of the house in the fall of 1983. He handed me $100. Attempts to find affordable housing or to get into a shelter back in New York City in 1983 was either dangerous or they were just overflowing. I used what money I had of that $100 to pay for my subway tokens and an occasional cup of soup while riding the E train at night. I was a college student with a bright future, yet I was homeless. This was not supposed to be part of my journey. On those long nights, I did what came naturally. I wrote about my childhood and adult experiences, reflecting upon some of the more emotional points in my life. Sometimes I would just grab the last seat of the train, hide my face as much as I could into my chest, allow the heaters to warm my torn sneakers, and cry. I cried a lot during those times, wondering why this was happening to me. I even thought somehow I deserved it. After all, I was conditioned to think that way. One night, I even hid underneath a pew inside a church near my old home and was relieved when the church doors were locked. At least for one night on New Year's Eve in 1983, I had some shelter. When the morning would come, I would get off the Union Turnpike Kew Gardens train station on Queens Boulevard as the masses got on for their workday. I would walk to St. John's to save the subway token. If I found something, I would head over to Alumni Hall, which is now the arena, Conasec Arena, and I would make my phone calls from the pay booth. There were no cell phones back then in 1983. After my interviews, I would need to find a payphone as well, and you had to put a phone number on your resume. So what I did was I found a phone on the other side of Jamaica High School, which was rarely used. And I would stay there sometimes for 3 or 4 hours until somebody would call me. I would shower mostly in the basement of Alumni Hall until the winter break came that year. Much to my chagrin, they were renovating it. And on this particular December day, I needed to get to New York City in about 40 minutes for an interview. So I ran up the stairs to the bathroom located across from the athletic office. I had managed to hide my homelessness from the people at St. John's. Many of them knew me there since I had written for the school paper and had worked for the school radio station. When Coach Conasec, the St. John's basketball coach, walked in as I was about to wash my hair in the sink, he looked at me and he said, "What was I doing?" I lied. I told him I was just putting some water on my face. I told him everything was great and I was working. He slapped me on the back, gave me a big smile, and left. And I didn't want to take any more chances of somebody else from St. John's seeing what had happened to me. After all, I was a college graduate with such a great writing future. I was humiliated, so I went to the last bathroom stall and shut the door. I looked at the toilet, and the soap I just put in my hands from the dispenser. I rubbed the soap quickly into my hair and continued to stare at the water in the toilet. Then I knelt down, held my breath, dipping my head into the toilet and washed it quickly. I pulled some paper towels out of my coat pocket and dried my hair. I listened to make sure nobody else was in the bathroom as I went to the mirror to look at myself. I just started to cry. This wasn't supposed to be part of my journey. I was a college graduate with a bright future. I spent a couple more weeks on the train checking out job opportunities, but I was running out of money as well. The problem at this point was that I didn't even have enough money for subway tokens. So I stayed underground for almost 72 hours to try to save on what little money I had left. I remember looking at the many people who rode that train with me, those late nights and early morning hours. Their faces were much like mine. They were scared, tired, grungy, and just looking for just a slimmer of hope. Each person had a story, a unique one. Whether it was running out of money, losing a job in a downsized field, family problems, or a victim of social cutbacks. But something amazing happened to me during those nights. I developed what I consider now my greatest personal characteristic: compassion. I realized that the people on the train those nights were just like me, human beings who deserved to be treated with dignity and not disdain. It was shortly after that period of time that a caring aunt and uncle rescued me from the train and gave me a second chance at life. They showed me compassion, and to this day, I make sure I return it to them as age has taken its toll on them. Even now, I wonder how many of my brothers and sisters who were riding those trains with me at night were able to have an aunt and uncle like I did. Compassion has opened up many beautiful parts of my life as well. It's even helped me further along a dream, one that I had held for some 28 years after I graduated. I wanted to write a novel. And while sitting with my daughter in Orlando 3 summers ago, I got an email from the Vice President at Simon & Schuster who was interested in publishing my homelessness book that was originally self-published. He immediately signed me to a contract, and the book, Necessary Heartbreak, was published by Simon & Schuster 2 years ago. My story draws from the homeless experiences I had, as well as the lessons and challenges I associated with the plight. Each and every one of you here has something wonderful inside you. You have energy, you have love, you have compassion. A recent Huffington Post story reported that many who are on unemployment now no longer have this benefit. The number of part-time workers has risen from 4 million before the recession to 9 million now, meaning people are working a little, but for a lot less than we were previously earning. After I wrote an article for CNN in early February, I was overwhelmed by so many people contacting me, telling me they were just one paycheck away from having the foreclosure process start. I was even contacted by a woman who was living in a car with her daughter. A 60 Minutes report 2 weeks ago showed many families living in cars and trucks, parked outside Walmarts and YMCAs at night, waiting for their chance at a normal life in the state of Florida. A friend of mine who handles teenagers that are homeless in Indiana told me that the number of teenagers has risen by 50% even in the state of Indiana over the past few years that are homeless. While years of looking for a job have pushed people into despair, you cannot give up. You are our hope. You are among the most loving people in our country. Perhaps someone here will come up even with a better solution. Anything that can help us make sure every American has a warm roof over their heads. There isn't a person sitting in this room who lacks compassion, and I thank you. Thank you for sacrificing your time, your energy. There are many things, of course, we all could do with our lives, but what you are doing today is the most important thing. I understand that today, after 28 years, and being on that train for several weeks and looking at my brothers and sisters, and may not have gotten with that train like I did. Keep the compassion alive. You are our best hope. Thanks.